Hello guys, this is Pradeep Nair. We're going to look at a quick demo of dynamic policy actions. Dynamic policy actions allow administrators to change their security posture or the conditions that they define within the security policies dynamically based on environment variables that they define. So let's look at an example where the perceived the threat perception level is considered as a switch. So in case of green, I want to have normal access policy. In case of yellow or orange, I want to have more logging or IPS enabled for that matter. And if it's red, I want to really tighten up the screw and prevent access for some user groups. Now, in terms of the workflow, within Security Director, we have added a variable called as the environment variable, which you would see right under the firewall policy configuration table. Now, within the environment variable is where administrator would come in and create his environment variables. Now, in the first example that we are going to see where the perceived threat level being the variable, I have created a variable called defcon, and it has obviously possible values. And from this dashboard screen, you can see that it's applied to multiple policies and whatnot. To look at the workflow of creating an environment variable, the environment variable can have possible value types as either numbers, number ranges, or text. So in this case, I'm going to use text. So they'll be matching against characters. So green, yellow, and red are the possible values that I've assigned to defcon. And as you can see, there is a default value as well as a current value assigned to the environment group. Now, once I have the environment variable set and possible values assigned to it, the next step is to define conditions. And these conditions can be based on possible values of one or more environment variables. Now, in my example, I have kept it simple. I have created three environment conditions called green, red, and yellow, which corresponds to the defcon status being either one of these three different states. So again, once I define the environment condition, let me edit one of these. It's as simple as giving it a name and then defining the string or the match criteria based on the environment variables. For example, for my environment condition green, I have defined it as the condition as defcon environment variable being green. Similarly, I have defcon status for red, yellow captured in my conditions yellow and red. Once I have these conditions set, the next step would be to write my policies using these conditions. Now, the action part of the policy can change based on this condition variable. So if you see on the rule grid, in addition to the regular match criteria, now we have an additional column called as the rule conditions. So in the first rule, that's defining access to my engineering group, you'll see that the rule condition column, by default, it's the green value as I have said earlier. And when I define my policy based on the rule condition, I can define different access levels. So if I click on the rule condition column, to enable me to have different access or different actions for my match criteria. Here I have green, which is regular permit for that specific user group, yellow being permitting, but I am enabling IPS on the policy as well, and red being I'm trying to deny the traffic or an outward access for engineering group. Now, for my finance group, I want very similar policies, except that I don't want to completely block access to them even in the case of the highest level of defcon. So for yellow, I'm still enabling IPS, but for red, the user is going to still have access, but an application profile has been set so that he has access only to business critical applications. Now, these conditions and the policies can be preset, and when the environment condition changes, it's a single place where the administrator has to switch to change his entire policy posture. So let's say in my environment, the security operation teams comes up with a warning that the network might be under attack and they want to change the policy posture. All it takes is for the administrator to come in here, change the current value of the environment variable defcon to say yellow, right? And within the same workflow, as soon as he clicks save, we will calculate which policies needs to be changed. And in this case, there are two rules modified within my dynamic policy. You can review the changes that are going to be pushed. And as you would expect in this case, it is enabling IPS on the two specific rules that I wanted. And and once this is verified, again with the same within the same wizard, with a we'll have the workflows to initiate a publish as well as update to one or more devices as the policy is assigned. Now compare this with many hours that usually administrators take to come in and change their policies to reflect the new conditions. Now the next example is, let's say the security operations group comes in and they definitely believe that there is an attack. They want to really lock down the network. Again, we don't have to do any policy provisioning on the fly because we have all of them pre-created, and all we need to do is switch the environment variable defcon in this case to a value red. That's what I'm going to do now. So I'll edit the value and just change the current status of the variable to red. This again would trigger the similar workflow, and now my policy poster is changed, and as I have defined, the change that is going to be effective is blocking complete access or outward access to some user groups, and tightening up access to some other user groups in terms of restricting their access to only business critical applications. So in my example, engineering group gets a complete deny, while the finance group still gets some access, but again the access is restricted. An application profile that will restrict the access only to business critical applications is imposed on that traffic. Now that's a quick example of how the perceived threat level can be used as an indicator to change your policy dynamically. Let's look another example where, let's say, a retailer who needs to have a different policy structure based on the time of the year. So in this case, let's say he should have a different policy structure when it's a regular trading season or regular days, and if there's a holiday season, he needs to have more preference given to his or trading business applications for that matter. So again, in this example, I have created a variable called season, and the season again can have different values. The values I have defined for the season to make it relevant to the retailer environment is I have defined some of the well-known holiday seasons like July 4th, year-end, Black Friday, and also he has a regular as the default value, and regular would be his any other time of the year when his online trading is not that high. Now, again, I create an environment condition based on the seasons, and technically I have only two conditions here. The first condition is either I am on a holiday season, which would be defined by the environment variable season having either values like year-end, Black Friday, or July 4th. So that's exactly how I have defined the condition here. And the second condition would be the regular condition when the environment variable season has a value regular. Now what's left for the administrator to do is to define his policies based on these environment variables such that he can change his access profile for his users based on what time of year it is. Again, keeping it very simple for this example, for this demo, I have only a single access policy, and by default, when it's regular, the access is permit, but then I'm applying an application level firewalling to restrict access, or he has access to business applications as well as social media applications for that matter. And then what I would expect is in holiday season, I want to restrict access to social media, so my bandwidth is focused on business critical applications. So I have defined my rule condition as either holiday or regular within the policy. Now let's say it's end of year, so the admin comes in, changes the current value of the variable to, let's say, year end, and it triggers the policy changes within his environment to reflect a different access profile for his users. In this case, it is going to restrict access to social media and give him access only to business critical applications. That is a quick demo of dynamic policies. Thank you for listening. This is Pradeep Nair.